All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am no one. And in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about the enchantment system once again. I wanted to do a deeper dive in this because there's been a lot of feedback over this last week. Obviously, there were some substantial changes to gear. There was some substantial changes to enchanting, and although it seems pretty well received, some people disagree with the direction and they wanted to go back in the direction that it was. And I saw some of that. I disagree with that point of view, and I want to kind of explain that in a video for those of you guys that, don't really know the full details of the system. I figured I could help outline it and explain to you where it's coming from, how impactful the enchanting system is, how impactful the enchanting system will be, and all these other sorts of things. And so that's what this video is going to do. We're just going to take a deeper dive. So let's just dive into it. First things first, what we need to do is we need to understand what kind of values we are getting with the new enchanting system. In a previous video from last week, I showed that the old system allowed for level 0 and level 10 gear to enchant, and some of the more egregious pieces that had multiple waterfall stats, when you enchanted them, they made that specific piece 300, 400, 500% stronger than what their initial value was. And what that means is when each individual piece is providing that kind of value, it means it's also providing that kind of value to your character in a very large fashion. And so players were getting amplified amounts of damage through their gear sets. I would say before this last week, probably your overall value of damage, defense, mitigation through your gear sets was like 95% gear included. And so that's just a rough number. All rough numbers are made up in your head, but it was like the vast majority of your defenses, damage, crit chance all came from your gear. And so what they've done is they've provided a higher base value for higher level gear, and then they've also lowered the overall enchanting value. And so I wanted to provide an example for you guys, and just so you guys can see it. If we look at this Academus Monitor Breastplate, this is a level 20 item in Epic. You see on the high end, we have 516 armor, and that's enchanted at level 0. If we upgrade it to level 20, it jumps up to 619 armor. Now, I feel sorry for flashbanging you guys here. I'm just warning you in advance. We're going to come over here and we're going to go from 516 to 619, and we're going to see how much of an impact this is. So compared to somebody with the exact same breastplate in Epic, you are almost 20%. You have almost 20% more armor than that person. If we go in and we look at Constitution, it's the same value. You get 20% more Constitution. These lower values, it's actually a little bit higher of a value, but overall, on the most important parts of the piece, you are going to see a 20% increase on the high end. Now, currently, nobody's upgrading to plus 20 because there's not really a material way to get there in Alpha 2. I've heard people are getting up to plus 12. Safely, people are getting to plus 9 in the current Alpha 2. And so where we're kind of at is, obviously it's not a finalized game. It's not finalized impact or anything like that. But I think we can safely say that the difference between a level 0 piece and a level 9 or 10 piece is roughly 9 to 10% in value. And we can see that here. So if we go down to plus 9, which is what people can get pretty safely, you see we go to 562. Sorry for the flashbang. I'm just warning you guys in advance. But if we go to 562, we see that the difference between the two pieces is about 9%. Now, some of the complaints on the forums and on YouTube, like I've seen some comments from people, is people saying like, hey, this 9%, that doesn't mean anything. Like there's no impact here. Why would I enchant any piece if I'm only get a 9% difference or up to a 20% difference overall between these things? Why would I do this? This has no meaning. And I just have to ask, what are you talking about? Like, we all play different games, right? We've all played different MMORPGs, but I can't think of a single MMORPG where if somebody ran something slightly suboptimally in like a hardcore trial or raid setting or in PvP, it wasn't called out, right? Like literally the coolest and nerdiest part about MMORPGs is people are constantly trying to squeak out 1 to 2% damage differences, and they're willing to pay exorbitant amounts of gold in game and out of game in order to do so. And so a 10% difference here, you have to keep in mind, this 9% is not just a 9% difference between you and me. The way it's impacted is substantially different. And I wanted to provide an example for you guys, okay? So let's say that I'm fighting you, okay? Like I insulted you, I insulted your mom. I don't know why I would do such a thing, but let's just say that happened, right? And now we have to fight in game. Let's say that you and I have the exact same build. You and I are both on clerics because, we decided to be loser healer classes for some reason. And one of our damage skills hits each other for the equal value, 1,000. You hit me for 1,000, I hit you for 1,000. We heal for the same amount. We have the same amount of resistances, everything, right? Well, whatever it's going to come down to, who wins that fight is whoever is the most skilled, correct? Because we have the exact same build, everything else. It's who's going to utilize their burst, who's going to utilize everything else correctly, not overheal in certain spots is going to win, right? So it's all skill based at that point. What happens when all of a sudden, I'm going to round the number up to 10%, and then you guys can extrapolate this yourself because it makes it for easier numbers for me and then to relay it to you guys. But let's say now your guys' gear is enchanted up to +9. Right? Or +10, and you guys now have 10% more stats on your gear than I do. So that means you hit 10% harder than I do. That means you take 10% less damage when I hit you. Because not only does your attack damage go up, your defensive values also go up. So when I hit you, now that you have 10% more mitigation, instead of me hitting you for 1,000, I'm now only hitting you for 900. When you hit me, now that you have 10% more damage, instead of you hitting me for 1,000, you're now hitting me for 1,100. And so the difference now is not a difference of 10%. If we go in here, and sorry for the flashbang once again, if we go in here and we look at the overall difference here, the difference between 900 and 1,100, a 9 to 10% difference is actually a 22% difference in how the outcome is felt between the two of us fighting. So now I am taking a lot more damage. I have to utilize my resources to heal more. I'm not going to heal as much as you are. And this is compounded substantially through all the different stats. And so you are going to critically hit harder than I will because you're doing 10% more damage, so your crits are going to hit harder. You're going to heal more. You're going to critically heal more. And all of this isn't by a number of 10%. It is actually, in an actual fighting scenario, it is actually a much larger value. And so this is why in PvP games, people are constantly looking to squeak out 1 to 2% edges, because that 1 to 2% is typically felt in a 1v1 at like a 5% rate. And if people are equally skilled, your build is going to shine through if you can squeak out those little numbers, right? And so when you look at a 9% difference here, or a 10%, this is a substantial number. Like this is a very large number relative to players. Now, on top of this, not all gear sets are equal. Not all weapons are equal. Not all skills are equal. Not all players are equal. You have all these different disparities that exist in the game, right? And personally, in my personal opinion, I think games like Ashes of Creation that have very high risk, high reward systems where you could potentially lose a node, where you could potentially lose lots of things in your inventory if things don't go well, I think it makes more sense to be more based off skill than off of gear. Now, I know this has already happened a few times. I've had people come into my chat, and they've commented in the comment section and they said, "No one, this is an MMORPG. If you're not grinding gear, like this is the entire point, is to grind gear." I think there's a middle ground, right? Like there is a middle ground in gear having value and gear grinding being part of the player loop, which can be fun and rewarding, and there also being an equal value of skill. Like, if your goal is to have a long-term, healthy, competitive game, which is what Ashes of Creation is striving to be long-term, that's what their player model is. They want a subscription. They're not trying to get a bunch of people to buy the game right away and then quit it. They want people to play it for months and months and months. If you're going to have that type of game and that type of model, you want the game to revolve, in my opinion, more around skill. Because when players hear somebody's playing this game, they're going to come in and they're going to be like, okay, well, how long is it going to take me to be competitive, right? And if it's going to take them 4, 5, 6 months, a year to have the gear to be even competitive, that's before skill even comes into play, it's going to deter a lot of players. It's going to cause retention issues. It's going to create a situation where a lot of players will not want to sign up and play. Now, obviously, some of that is by design. It is an MMORPG. You are engaging in player loops, and you will need time to get to that end game. And so there needs to be a healthy value there. And so I think the value that they currently have here, it's a lot better than what it was. Like before, all that mattered was gear. It didn't matter how good you were. I've said before, I thought the TTK was way too low. And the reason you could tell it was too low is because archetypes weren't represented properly. Like literally nobody was running fighters, nobody was running tanks and high-end wars because the damage was too high. Like you just run a range build. That's just currently where the war situation was at, and they're making those adjustments. And so all this is, in my opinion, is a good thing. And so we can agree and disagree. Like if you like those types of games where gear has a higher value, I totally understand. There's plenty of games out there. There's grind to win games and there's pay to win games that have this endless grinding pursuit for higher tier gear. And no matter what you do in those types of games, if you don't have that gear, like you're really not going to compete. And some people like those. There's a reason those games exist. I don't think Ashes is going to be that way. And the reason I say that is if you go over here and you look at the wiki, when they talk about armor and whatnot, there's a question here. Could you explain in detail what you mean by 50% of the player power when talking about gear influence on player power? And this is an answer from Stephen Sharif. That's just a general allocation of what players can expect to pursue when enhancing their player character power. Now, obviously, the distribution and ratio of these types of influences, whether it be itemization, whether it be level, whether it be augment choices and or skill tree choices, those influences and ratios change through the leveling curve. So at lower levels, your character level is going to be more influential over character power than itemization will be. But at endgame or higher levels, or at the end of the adventuring level progression, that's when itemization really gets an emphasis for its ratio of player power. And so the overall point of this is your overall character power is going to be spread in this game among a variety of different things, like whatever relics you have. Enchantments are part of it, obviously. There's going to be gem sockets that are going to come online. Rarity is also obviously part of it. Like if we look at uncommon, you see we have 393 armor. And if we upgrade this to legendary, we see we have 683 armor. So rarity matters as far as overall armors provide. Enchantments are providing a disparity there as well. Like I said, gem sockets, and then you have different values of different relics that you're going to provide. If you go and you look at your guild buffs, choosing into certain trees will potentially give you different combat bonuses as well. And so the overall point of what I'm trying to say here is currently, if we go on to the game right now, and let's say we take off all of our gear, and this is just how I'm interpreting it right now. If we take off all of our gear, yes, guys, I do work out. Yes, I know. If we go in here and we look at everything, we see I have 33.5 fizz power. This is a level 21 rogue. I have no food buffs. I have nothing else like that on. If we put all of this gear back on, and I'm not going to flashbang you guys again, I promise. But if we look at all this again, we jump up to 191, which means that 160 of my 191 physical power is through gear, which, if you do rough math, that means 5/6 roughly of my overall gear power, of physical power in game, is through my gear. Now, that means if you do rough math, 5/6 is well over 80%. Like the vast majority of my buffs is coming through my gear. The vast majority of my enchants currently felt is going to be through my gear. Now, if this is true, and we don't know for sure, of course, like we don't know if this is what's going to happen at endgame, but if this is true that 50% of our player power is only going to come through gear, that means that our enchantments, our gear at endgame, this is going to be substantially less. This is going to be substantially less of an impact. And so, overall, I think this type of direction that Intrepid is looking at, I think this is better for the game as a whole. I think this is just overall better design. You want players to have player agency. You want players to utilize skills and different buffs in the game. The best, longest standing games, in my opinion, are the ones that lean into the combat of the game instead of the gear chase. The gear chase is valuable. I'm not saying it's not. There's a reason I play MMORPGs. I love theory crafting in MMORPGs. And so one of the things I love doing is chasing after gear. But when I fight people out there, if I win, I want it to be based off of my skill level in the game. I don't want it to be based off of me having better gear. It's just not as rewarding for me. Now, obviously, it's part of it. Like, obviously, it's going to be a part of it. There's going to be some times I'm going to run up across people and I have better gear than them. That's part of the game. And so that's just what it is. I don't need to be told to go play a different game. Obviously, I'm playing MMORPGs for a reason, the same way you guys are. I love the theory crafting because playing different builds also gives you that advantage in game. It's just the overall levels and the overall impact that we're seeing right now will probably be less than what's being shown at the moment. And so if this is still by design, And in general, people are, annoyed with the enchanting disparity and how this disparity is not as valuable and is not as impactful as it will be. It's going to be less impactful as the game progresses and as we get more and more things online. Like, it's just going to be a lower portion of the enchanting process. And I think leaning more into the combat is going to be worth it. And so that's just my opinion. It looks like so far that's Intrepid's opinion. I hope they keep that design because I think that'll make for a healthier game as a whole. I think it makes a game more fun. I'm going to end this video here. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.